Are you a Christian officer?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. You know if you were to die today on the job, if you go to heaven?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. How do you know that?
I was baptized and everything. God is my Savior, brother. I've been in church since I was 9 years old. I was serving Catholic, then I went Pentecostal, now I go to a non-denomination.
So are you trusting in Jesus Christ or your works or baptism? So are you trusting in Jesus Christ or your works or baptism?
Trusting in Jesus Christ is accepting of my Savior.
Yes. And there's
I don't start a day without a prayer, and I don't end the day without a prayer.
Amen.
This well that's more for, I mean, you can have that one too, but it deals with babies being murdered in our country, and this deals with people ask me about, what's with the pot leaf, but that deals with basically the states. We have, I'm not sure how many states, but several states that have ignored federal law that says that the states cannot distribute, possess, sell, or they cannot distribute marijuana, pot. But you have many states that are saying, we don't care what you say, we're going to do it anyway. So you have states that tell the federal courts, the federal law, to pound sand for it to smoke pot, but they bow down to the Supreme Court and won't tell the courts to pound sand in order to protect babies. So we have Republican politicians that they'll say no to the federal courts in order to allow pot to be distributed or smoked, but they won't do it the same thing. They won't interpose to save babies. And I mean, isn't that crazy? We care more about pot than we do babies being murdered. So that's and
committing crime.
And
I don't get into politics.
What's that?
I don't get too big into politics.
Well, it's
my father was a big time politician, so I stay away from that.
Well, yeah, politics is very dirty. Like we deal with politics not because we want to, but because we're striving to love our neighbor as ourselves, and babies are being mass murdered in Orlando and all over Florida. And it's not really more a matter of politics. It's a matter of what do we do for our neighbors who are being murdered. If that means we got to go into office, or I don't want to need to hear that.
You get it.
But
you're talking to Winter Garden, not us.
But like
we share the radio with Winter Garden.
Yeah, do you have to answer that?
Hey, I'll call you back in 5 minutes. Call you back.
But yeah, it's more a matter of what do our neighbors in the womb need of us in the midst of a Holocaust where babies are being murdered. We know when and where. The Orlando Women's Center, we were there yesterday morning, and abortion mills. How many are in Florida? Do you know off the top of your head?
Well, in Florida, I don't know. I should know.
I'm sure I know there's a lot. I just don't know the number.
Yes.
But there's.
The first number that comes to mind is 80.
And twice as many as I was just guessing.
So we
probably got 20 themselves.
So we have abortion mills all over the place. Pharmacies where moms can go murder their babies through the pill, through Plan B, and what's a Christian's duty? Like, we should ask, what does true Christianity look like in a culture that practices child sacrifice? What does it look like to be a Christian in a culture that murders its own children? It doesn't look like Christians saying, well, I'm not going to get involved. It's not my calling, my burden. I don't want to get involved in politics. I don't know if anyone wants to go into politics. Any true Christians do, but like, we don't want to go out to the abortion mills, but we do it out of obedience. And as an officer, you have authority that we don't have, and I encourage you to bring that before the Lord, what He'd have you to do as an officer of the law, that what your duty is when you have child sacrifice centers in Orlando and throughout Florida, and not far from here, and pharmacies where your preborn neighbors are being mass murdered through the pill. And what one thing in addition to the literature I gave you, if you can recall, check out defytyrants.com. defytyrants.com. The doctrine of the lesser magistrates. It deals with what their duty is when a higher ranking civil authority contradicts the law of God, and in this country not only contradicts the law of God ultimately, but violates the Constitution. But ultimately, we have so-called laws in this country that blatantly violate the law of God, and most magistrates, even those who profess to be Christians, those who go to church every Sunday, those who take communion on Sundays, even those that basically blaspheme God and say, we don't care what you say, God, we're going to uphold Roe v. Wade, allow babies to be murdered, we're going to uphold so-called homosexual marriage, whatever the courts say we're going to uphold, no matter how evil it is. We need magistrates to say, no, I'm going to do my job. I upheld an oath to the Constitution. I fear God, and if this, whatever the cost is, I'm going to do this. And so I mean, that's something to think about. As a Christian, as Christians, we have a duty to tell other Christians about this, because a lot of people, whether they're Christian or not, they don't do anything about babies being murdered. They do nothing, which is why we have 49 years of baby murder, because most are silent. Most don't really do much about it. So, and I wish Christians had talked to me about these things when I was growing up. They never did. I didn't know about this until I was 22 years old, because no churches ever, the pulpits didn't mention it. No Christians I knew, they never said anything. So that in this pamphlet, this is not really for Christians, but it has an image of a murdered baby inside of it, and let that break your heart. Just when you open it up, it's people want to hide that from their kids' eyes or from their own eyes, but we need to look at it, because that's happening in our culture, in our own cities. That happened to babies yesterday morning in Orlando, and all across Florida, all across America, thousands of babies. And I know it's not pleasant to look at, I know that, but if it's so unpleasant that we cannot stand to look at it, why do we continue to tolerate it day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year? People who tolerate this evil, they don't love God. And that's a hard thing to hear, but how can we say we love God when we refuse to love these children? And people can ask, what can I do? That's a good question. What can I do to stop this? Well, as an officer of the law, like, I can tell you what I would do if I was a cop, but if I told you to do what I would do, then you'd lose your job tomorrow, probably, going to arrest the abortionists. So I don't want to like, what's that?
I'll probably lose it on the spot.
You probably, yeah, you'd probably be in jail. So I don't want to tell you to do something that I like. That's why I wouldn't become. I don't see myself becoming a cop, because I'd basically be becoming a cop to sacrifice myself, the job the next day. But talk to your other officers. If you have enough officers in your district that would, enough men who would man up and say, we're going to do this because this is the right thing to do. We're going to make history. But first and foremost, we fear God, and we're going to shut down this death camp. We don't care if Governor DeSantis, if he's not man enough to do it, we're going to do it. And we're going to tell the Supreme Court to pound sand, and we're going to shut this place down, these death camps, these abortion mills. We're going to shut them down. We're going to go arrest the serial killer. If you had a police district do that, that'd make national news, and that'd be such an example. Christian officers who fear God and say no to man's law that says you have to allow mass murder. Imagine if they did that in Nazi Germany. Imagine that. But most police officers don't have a spine, and that grieves me to see. So I mean, it's a lot to take in. I'm sure right now you're kind of drinking out of a fire hydrant, but just think about these things. I'm simply trying to share this with you because, again, I wish Christians had shared this with me growing up. I wasn't a Christian growing up, but I wish Christians had showed me these images. And just think about, what can I do, not only as an officer of the law, but also as a private citizen, as a Christian. What can I do? Well, when you're off duty, you can come out to the abortion mill. If you did it on duty, I don't know, probably wouldn't do too well for your job, but we're out there Saturday mornings. Miss Ann, she goes out during the week, and I'm traveling, so I'm not here. I'm not usually here, but yeah, check out. There's a website on here, Free the States. So you probably got to get back to your job. But
I'm good.
Yeah. What was your name, officer? Renee. Okay. And so if you have more questions about, like I said, there's a website on here, freethestates.org, that talks about how the pro-life movement is keeping abortion legal, how pro-life politicians and groups they're working to keep abortion legal by there's bills of abolition, bills that would abolish abortion, not regulated, but abolish abortion. And every time, and in conservative states, they've had abolition bills, including Florida. And every year, those bills that would abolish abortion, they are killed, not by Democrats, they're killed by pro-life, church-going, communion-taking Republicans every single time. That doesn't make sense, does it? So you're like, why are they doing that? Well, a big reason they're doing that is because they think every mom who murders her baby is a victim. They'd rather allow murderers to walk than have justice for their victims. They're turning the victim upside down, saying the baby's not the victim, the mom's the victim, or saying they're both victims. So that's the reason that they're killing these abolition bills. So yeah, that's something to think about. I don't want to dump way too much on you. It's a lot to think about.
I like to listen to everybody, so
well, and I'm not like, I don't want to put like anything I'm saying or myself on a pedestal, but a lot of people, they may say nonsense or stupid things to you. Please hear this, like you are, and I appreciate that, but I'm just like yeah, I'm a nobody, like I'm kind of an average Joe. Well, that's kind of what we are, but you're not going to have many Christians that speak this to you, because like I said, not many Christians care about this at all in this country. I mean, it's we went to the baby murder rallies yesterday in Orlando and Claremont, and there weren't many Christians out there. There were many professing Christians supporting baby murder, but I think there are more professing Christians supporting baby murder than there were Christians speaking against baby murder. What a sad testimony of Christianity in this country and in Florida. What a terrible testimony. But yeah, it's what's that?
A lot of confused people right now.
There are, and a lot of Christian people, whether they're Christian or not, that are confused. And but yeah,
a lot of people say they're Christians, but they don't love their neighbor. You know, their neighbor being the unborn baby in the belly of the mama who lives next door, and they don't love that child enough to speak out and do something about it. That they would rather just go along to get along. Well, that going along to get along is killing thousands and thousands of babies every year, every month. So
our apathy is killing these kids.
that's right.
And Nazi Germany, they went along to get along so they wouldn't die in the concentration camps. But we don't have that excuse, and we still won't do anything, even though we have the constitutional freedom to speak out. And we're not sitting in jail, not yet, for going out to the streets. So I mean, we have freedom that they didn't have, but we don't do anything with it. So I mean,
and honestly, the people who are in favor of abortion, who see us out there trying to minister on behalf of the unborn babies, they will attack us physically and verbally, and they get away with it. Nobody's holding them accountable, so
I really look at the image of the I know it's not pleasant to look at, but just look inside of this later and at your neighbor and think, what can I do to stop this? I'm a Christian. What can I do to stop this? You may say, I'm only one person. Well, we're only, I'm one person. God used, 12 disciples to turn the world upside down. 12 disciples, and one of them was a devil, as Jesus said. So, I mean, God doesn't use big armies. So, I don't know, maybe you haven't given the murder of your preborn neighbors much thought until now. I don't know. Many Christians don't even give much thought to it, which is sad, but that's why we talk about it. Because if abortion is murder, we need to act like people are being murdered, right? We need to act like people are actually being slaughtered every day, and most aren't doing that. But yeah, check that website out, and
I promise you I will.
So thanks for taking time to listen to us. Yeah.
Appreciate you guys talking to me.
And I know you have a dangerous.
In 10 minutes, I gotta do briefing. So.
I know you got a dangerous job, and I appreciate your working officer, because
37 years, man.
What?
Have you?
37 years.
37 years. Well,
I'm retired.
Thank you.
Here.
thank you for your time.
so yeah, think about what your duty as an officer of the law is in the midst of a Holocaust.
Yes,
Sir.
because you are a lesser magistrate, maybe you're not the governor or the president, but you're in a position of authority, and so you have the opportunity to do something more than we have an opportunity to do something.
And
Your station holiday here in Oakland.
Right.